All right, hello. Today we are going to get Windows 10 running so we can execute some C++ code. This is going to involve setting up GitHub with Visual Studio Code as well as Mini GW, however it's pronounced, so we can have a mini GNU environment so we can actually execute some code. So let's get started. First, maybe. Stop. First, let's install Git. So Git is a version control system where we can store software, version software, work with others to collaborate on writing code together. This allows us to check in, check out, remain in history, so in case we mess something up, we can always roll back to an old version. But what this is it's a plugin for Windows to connect to a Git repository. In this case, we'll be connecting to GitHub. So I'm going to go through from the beginning. So we'll just download Git 64-bit for Windows setup in this case. So I want to save it. And when it's finished, I'm going to run this Git binary. It's a executable to install Git. So you'll see as I run through this, I'll go through all the licensing, connect. I'll get all this fun stuff. I'm just taking all the default values. Not sure what they're doing, but I'm sure it's fine. All right, while that's installing, I'm going to download and install Mingw. I said mini. Mingw, the minimalist GNU for Windows. This allows me to have a compiler connection, the GNU compiler collections, GCC. This will allow us to compile the C++ code so it's not being installed as a Windows specific program, so I can test it on my Mac or on my Apple computer or on a Linux computer, etc. So I don't need these Windows include files. So Mingw Installation Manager, that sounds like a good one to download. If I can find the download link. Here we go. Maybe. All right, here's more. Let's see, what do we have? Zip sounds good. And it should be downloading any second. I'm impatient, so I'm clicking the link. And we'll save that. And while that's going on, we will download the Visual Studio Code installer. All right, let's go back to my Git setup. It is done. So Git is now installed. Let's see how my other downloads are going. No, I'm not playing Fortnite, but my kids might be. Let's go for the Mingw install. Oh, that doesn't look like a Windows installer. Let's find the Windows installer. Oh, that's a Windows installer. Mingw get setup.exe. That sounds like the one we want. Okay, it is installing. We'll save it. Finish downloading. Mingw setup. Install. Default. Click. Downloading and unpacking all the stuff that we're going to need. Once we get this installed, it'll have a GCC program that we'll be using throughout this semester whenever we're building any C++ applications. And so the first thing we do is we're going to tell it to install the C++ compiler, mark for installation. I might want the C compiler for later. I'm going to install the developer toolkit, the base. I won't be doing any Ada or Fortran, I guarantee you that. So did they install? Apply changes. There we go. Apply. Now it looks like it's installing these. So now it's reading in here. We're going to have to add the Mingw root or msys path to our system path, which we can do in Windows 10. It's under your control panel, System and Security, System, Advanced System Settings, Environment Variables. Now here I'm setting user variables for Chris, that's me, as opposed to the system. That's generally a safer thing to do, so let's just do that. So we're going to click on the path variable. We're going to click Edit. We're going to hit New. Then we're going to hit Browse. And I'm going to go on this PC, C, Mingw, bin. Bin is where all the binary files are, all the binary executables. This will be things like GCC and G++ for when we run them. So you can see over in this other window, they're still downloading, but we should be able to get going with our path settings here. Okay. So now those should be set. I'll leave this window open in case I want to come back. The next thing we're going to install, since we've installed we've installed Git, we've installed Mingw for the G++ compiler, C++ compiler. Now we are going to install Visual Studio Code. This is not the full Visual Studio that you'll typically install if you're doing Windows.NET based development. This is basically a open source IDE that Microsoft put out. It's much lighter weight. It's more of a plug-in system, and it's really taken popularity in industry over the past couple of years. I'm adding a whole bunch of open with kind of stuff, and this way Windows will use Visual Studio Code whenever it can. I'll install that. You'll see the Mingw is still installing over there. And let's launch Visual Studio Code. One thing I know I'm going to do, there are going to be a bunch of plugins that we can use. So we'll have extensions, and let's look for Code Runner. We used that in the class, so we can just hit the play button to run our code. That's super helpful. All right, so we hit that. Now let's create open a folder just so we have one place to go. I'll open my desktop for now. And I'm going to create a new C++ file. And we will hit Windows S or something, file S to save this. And I want to save it as a basic.cpp, CPP for C++. And now we'll see a C++ extension is recommended for this file type, and I will hit install, and it will install something. I think this is the basic C++ extension, so we'll have some code completion, syntax highlighting, things that will make our C++ lives a little easier. So let's see if I can get this right off the top. Using namespace standard. Ta-da! Now we'll run it. And it works. Well, thank you very much for watching. That is how we